Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. He's a fellow of the American Academy of Integrative Medicine and American Academy of Medical Acupuncture, and an advanced fellow in anti-aging, regenerative, and functional medicine. He's quadruple board certified in my favorite topic, anti-aging and regenerative medicine, integrative medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitative and medical acupuncture, the director of the International Autoimmune Institute and the Brigham Memorial Center for Functional Medicine, the first medical center in the country associated with a teaching hospital to treat all types of autoimmune disease. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. David Bilstrom.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. I think want to jump in right away. I don't know. To me, it seems like there's so much more autoimmune disease these days. So do you want to describe for our audience what is autoimmune disease?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So there's two parts of the immune system. One is called the adaptive immune system that makes antibodies against things that are our enemies, and they're going to try to hurt us, like infections or cancer cells.
Right.
But the immune system gets confused and actually starts making antibodies attacking our own body parts. Basically, we're self-destructing.
Right.
Rule of thumb is never a good idea to self-destruct, right? That is contrary to what the body is supposed to do. Right. And so there's classic ones like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis. But as we're learning more and more about chronic disease and how the body stays healthy forever, as long as we're alive, we're realizing that so many chronic health issues actually are autoimmune disease, such as autism. 70% of all autism is one particular autoimmune disease. There's an autoimmune disease component to osteoporosis, heart attacks, strokes, Alzheimer's, migraines, seizures, all these kind of things. And so we're really understanding that it's really a part of all chronic disease.
Wow.
But because we know what causes autoimmune disease, we're in a position to prevent it in the first place, but also once it's established, we're actually in a position to reverse it. And what we're trying to teach people is, we want to prevent it. And really preventing disease is not nearly as hard as I think the medical community makes it seem. As long as you can really hit these central mechanisms, it doesn't take much, but also we can reverse things. And because of we're going to be talking about epigenetics, we can actually prevent it in future generations. So doing things while we're here and doing them right, and then ideally doing it before we conceive children, we actually can pass on cleaner genes to the next 6 to 8 generations, so they don't have to deal with this stuff either.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I love the idea of preventative medicine, obviously, and treating both the people that already have it. So why don't we jump into the topic of epigenetics? Because I'm a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've been listening to him through the pandemic, and I know that epigenetics is important in reversing and preventing chronic disease to be unstoppable. What is epigenetics for our audience, and how does that work?
Yeah, so epigenetics, I'm going to read the formal definition if you don't mind, then I'll kind of explain it a bit. So it's changes in an organism caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself. So we used to think that our genes, our DNA, and every cell in our body were hardwired. Whatever we got good, bad, otherwise from our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. You're hoping you got more good than bad. What we realize now is not so much what genes you have, it's which ones get turned on and turned off.
Correct.
Turns out there's a lot of bad genes we got to turn off, including 7 to 8% of all the genes in a human are actually viral.
Wow.
Viruses have gerrymandered our DNA to make copies of themselves and proteins to make us sick. And so you got to turn off the bad, got to turn on the good. Whenever somebody has a health problem, it's because they've gotten flipped the wrong way. They've turned on the bad, turned off the good, But then as you are doing your due diligence to address the health issues or preventing health issues, people are flipping these genes the right way. Then they get totally flipped the right way, feeling great. Then we lock them in place and then they stay good, ideally the rest of their lives. So this is a big part of longevity, staying healthy, you know, it's not so much lifespan as health span, right?
Right.
So longevity is health span, and really locking you in place so you stay healthy. The body was designed to probably work beautifully. I always tell patients, nothing is age related till 90. But of course, people come in and go, I think I'm getting old and I'm 25. And I go, no. But also 75 people come in and go, nah, 75, no, it's not age yet. Nothing's age related till 90. But what we're learning about longevity and health span is probably we're designed to be 105, 107 to still be really healthy, even, to those kind of ages.
That's so amazing. So is it caused by gut health or nutrition, or is there any other environmental causes?
Yeah. So all chronic disease, not just autoimmune disease, is infections and inflammation. And infections cause inflammation. Now, we're not talking about the infections. They're kind of the obvious ones that get in and we have a high fever and we all got the cold, got the flu, heaven forbid you get the COVID, right? You go, oh, that's an infection. But we're talking about other kind of infections that are more these sneaky dudes that get in and drive chronic disease. But then the other things that drive inflammation, vitamin deficiencies, hormone imbalances or deficiencies, toxicity. And unfortunately, we live in a very toxic world, like heavy metals and pesticides and plastics and flame retardants, yuck stuff. Toxic stress that throws off the stress hormone cortisol, which is a super central mechanism. And then the gut. And the gut is the central mechanism of all this stuff. And if by the time the gut gets whacked, if these other areas aren't whacked totally already, the gut guarantees they're going to totally get whacked. And then this is what drives all this immune system disruption.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I know for me and people that I've worked with before, the gluten-free has become so important. And we had a chance to chat quickly right before the podcast about a friend of mine who has RRMS, other autoimmune diseases. Do you have any suggestions that our audience can take to be unstoppable to prevent autoimmune disease and things that they can do at home?
Absolutely. And one thing to remember is the body is super, super smart, right? So we tend to kind of think like, oh, I got these health issues. My body has let me down. And I'm like, no,
Right.
no, 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 no. Your body's default mode is to fix anything, right? So it's never the body's fault. The body's always sitting there. Hey, give me a chance. I know how to do this. I'm going to be trying to do this. You got to give me a chance. So like I use an example, like you stub your toe, you walk around the house in bare feet, you kick a chair leg, your toe hurts like crazy, you're hopping around in pain. Well, you have such confidence in your body's ability to heal. You're not thinking, oh, great, I'm going to have bad toe pain my whole life, right? You're
Right.
thinking 2 or 3 minutes, I'm good. I'm just not going to do that again. That hurt like crazy. But we tend to think of these chronic things as, that's just how it's going to be. And we're like, no, 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 no. Your body's too smart for that. So what you got to figure is, okay, what's getting in the way of the body doing what it was designed to do? So when it comes to nutrition and this kind of stuff, when the gut gets disrupted, it becomes leaky. In more technical terms, an intestinal permeability disorder. And that leakiness drives a lot of things, including it drives the development of food sensitivities. Now, there's 2 different ways that foods can bug people, basically. One is an obvious way, they call it immediate hypersensitivity reactions. But this is like, people can figure it out better than any test we have, better than skin testing for foods. Skin testing for foods are notoriously unreliable. But the immediate ones, people can figure it out because every time they eat a certain food, they just don't feel good. Kids with peanut allergies is a bit of an extreme example, but if somebody eats ice cream and 10 minutes later, they gurgle, 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 loose stools, you're like, yeah, something in there is bugging me. But what really is a sneaky way that foods drive people is only the proteins that do this, not the carbs, not the fatty acids, just the proteins, is what they call delayed hypersensitivity reactions. And this is where you eat the food and days later or up to a month later, that protein is still circulating your system, whacks you with inflammation. But if you don't know it's bugging you, because it doesn't bug you right away, you keep eating it until you're like, holy cow, where's all this inflammation? Where's all this health issues coming from? So when it comes to autoimmune disease, everybody's developed a delayed hypersensitivity reaction to wheat proteins, 62 different kinds, gluten's one, and cow's milk dairy. No exceptions. Now you can develop a lot of other ones as well, and you can test for those. It's not the skin testing; it's a different kind of testing. But we usually do is, hey, you got this autoimmune disease. Let's go wheat and gluten-free, dairy, cow's milk dairy-free. Butter's okay. Butter is not a protein, and it's actually spectacularly great for your gut.
I love butter.
Oh my goodness. It's the only food source of a short chain fatty acid called butyrate. And now ideally butyrate is made by the good bacteria in the gut. As the good bacteria in the gut make a ton of other stuff, it is unbelievably impactful. And I would like to share why that was make you unstoppable, and especially in combination with a couple other things. But by getting rid of the foods that bug you, you open up this window of opportunity to fix everything. So get rid of wheat, dairy. If you're not a bunch better, this is a great example of the body's so good, a bunch better, 6 to 8 weeks, you got other foods bugging you. You can test easily for those and then temporarily get rid of those guys, open up the window of opportunity, fix everything, including eventually you can actually fix the foods bugging you because you fixed the reason why they're bugging you, which is that gut disruption.
Well, this is so important for you guys to know. I hope you're taking notes. And where can people find you? Like, for example, if they want to get a blood test to see what food sensitivities they have after they've already eliminated the gluten and dairy from their diet for 6 to 8 weeks. And where can people find your book and your website?
Yeah, the website is about as straightforward. You could probably guess it. It's DR, like a doctor, drdavidbilstrom.com. And you can get access to all our social media platforms, our YouTube channel, where we have 150 different videos specifically about specific scientific journal articles. Because I want people to know this is not one person's opinion. This is the science. This is the science behind it. And so my book is called The Nurse Practitioner's Guide to Autoimmune Medicine, Reversing and Preventing All Autoimmune Disease. Now, our goal is to get somebody in every community that knows how to do this, medical practitioner ideally, because we want to change the way autoimmune disease is dealt with worldwide. But until that happens, people need to know how to do this themselves mostly. So it's also written for people as a self-help guide. And I talk about masters do the basics well. And if you know the basics, you're the master of this stuff. And I really think even somebody with no medical training can do like 70% of what we do in clinic if they know the logic and the basics of this. So the book talks about why this happens, exactly what tests to run. And we teach you how to run your own tests. People can actually even go online. We give them 2 different ways they can order their own blood work. And then we teach them how to interpret the blood work results, because it's very important to interpret it, not just order the right blood work or other testing like the food sensitivity test, poop test, saliva test for cortisol, but exactly how to interpret the data, exactly what supplements to use, exactly when to retest, exactly when to simplify the regimen, including bringing foods back in, getting rid of these supplements because your body is now taken over. It's doing the work. You're feeling tremendously better. You don't need the help from these supplements anymore. And then what you do to lock yourself in place so you can stay good long term. So it's really a step by step by step. And because I want people to know it's not some person's opinion, even though it's written for people themselves or non-medical, there's 100 different scientific references in the book just to kind of make people understand this is the science behind this stuff.
I can attest to this, the fact that being gluten-free has really changed my health. And I hope you guys are listening and taking notes. And instead of feeling like something's getting taken away from you, it's how much value you're adding to your lifespan, the quality of your lifespan, not just the duration.
And if you're an adult with an autoimmune disease, your children have a huge increased risk of getting every autoimmune disease, not just one the parent has, because all these autoimmune diseases are not hundreds of different autoimmune diseases. It's really one disease that can attack any body part. Thus, if you don't fix the reason why you're attacking one body part, and the medicines that typically get used, just put a bandage on it. Those immunosuppressants, just a bandage on a couple of symptoms. You're not fixing the problem. If you don't fix why you got the first one, make it go away, you're just going to start attacking other body parts later. So you get a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth autoimmune disease. But also, this is why the children are at such great risk. And typically for preventative medicine, either it's unbelievably complicated, makes it seem complicated to prevent medicine, or unbelievably vague. Just exercise and eat different. And you're like, yeah, okay. That didn't help me much. But then you get things that flip the genes for you. So something like getting your vitamin D in a better position really flips genes. And so there's a beautiful, and this goes to show you how easy it is to prevent stuff, a beautiful study out of northern Finland where they took every kid born in 1966 in northern Finland, followed them for 31 years. And they said, okay, a whole bunch of you guys take 2,000 IU of vitamin D every day, first year of life, or a bunch of you guys don't. And we don't care what you do the next 30 years, we're going to follow you. They saw a 90% reduction in type 1 diabetes risk. They were able to prevent 90% of all type 1 diabetes. And oh, by the way, the kids and it never ended up getting schizophrenia either. It was great for the brain. And so here we have in the United States where they anticipate by 2050, there's going to be 600,000 young people under the age of 20 in the US alone with type 1 diabetes, 600,000. If everybody knew this by 2030, we have 8 years, and with your help, people are going to know this. Thank you so much for having me on. By 2030, everybody knew this. We'd prevent 545,000 of those kids from getting type 1 diabetes by doing that one thing, 1 year. Now, ideally, you want to keep it going because it's super important for everything. But that is like one of these, oh my gosh. And we don't know for sure, but if you're preventing one autoimmune disease, you're probably preventing all the others because they're all the same. Now, autoimmune disease and cancer are the flip side of the same coin. Okay, they're both immune system. So, heck, you might be preventing cancer. We do know that if every woman's vitamin D is above 60, we have decreased her risk of breast cancer already by 82%. So we're like, ooh, this might prevent cancer as well. And if you're preventing schizophrenia, well, all brain stuff is really all just brain stuff. It's all lumped together. It's not like hundreds of different brain things. You know, there's anxiety with depression tendencies, depression with anxiety tendencies, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, bipolar 9,000. It's like we split, when we all should be lumping this stuff together, and it's all just brain stuff, all just autoimmune stuff. And you prevent schizophrenia. I don't know, maybe you're preventing all other brain stuff as well. So those little things make a humongous difference, including that butyrate I mentioned before that should be made by the good bacteria. It's actually tested, it's so important, it's tested for on the digestive stool analyses that we talk about in the book. So a real big central mechanism to make people absolutely unstoppable actually is vitamin D receptors in the gut. Now, we hear a lot about insulin resistance, where the receptors for insulin become resistant, so insulin can't attach and do the work. It's almost like you don't have insulin, blood sugar problems, all this. Well, it turns out you have vitamin D receptors in every cell in the body, but there's so many more vitamin D receptors in the gut than any other body part. And when they saw that, they went, ooh, that seems important. But it turns out they can become resistant to vitamin D. When that happens, this whole host of bad stuff happens. But when you fix it, a whole domino effect of great stuff. So all the original data was on all the worst autoimmune diseases, the one that actually attacked the gut, like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease. And you're like, hey, we can turn this autoimmune stuff around. We just got to fix your gut. But what happens when the autoimmune disease is attacking the gut? How are we going to fix the gut to turn off the autoimmune disease if you're attacking the gut? Well, it turns out three simple things, right? Vitamin D every day, probiotic every day, and this butyrate every day. The one we use called butyrate complex, resets the vitamin D receptor resistance, makes it sensitive. Oh my gosh, this whole host of things in the gut. It optimizes that intestinal microbiome. So you build all your good guys in the gut, get rid of all the bad. Lining of the gut stops making chemicals that create inflammation. Lining of the gut starts making proteins to keep away bad bugs. Wow, this is a game changer for this autoimmune stuff. But they go, oh, well, actually, this looks exactly what you want to do if you want to prevent anxiety, depression, heart attack, stroke, cancer, autoimmune disease, Alzheimer's, depression, diabetes. And they go, oh my goodness, you know what? We just looked into closer. This is actually a nuclear weapon against metabolic syndrome. So with 2/3 of Americans being pre-diabetic, a nuclear weapon. I mean, scientific studies don't usually use the words nuclear weapon, right? It's like insulin, blood sugar, high blood pressure, abnormal weight gain, heart attack and stroke risk, cholesterol issues, a nuclear weapon. And then the more recent data, including from the journal, Harvard Journal of Psychiatry, is like, wow, this change in the intestinal microbiome that you can achieve is actually exactly what I want to do to treat major depressive disorder. It actually helps with personality traits. You fix this intestinal microbiome with these three things: reset vitamin D receptor sensitivity, it makes people more outgoing, more social. And then when you're outgoing and social, being that humans are social beings, it actually gets this turnaround where it helps your intestinal microbiome to be more social and outgoing. And then you get this beautiful cycle going for your brain, your immune system, all this. And this is where, when it comes to preventive medicine, it shouldn't be vague. It shouldn't be, overly complicated, because if you know these central mechanisms in all health, you are shifting everything in the body at the same time. And it's really not that hard, as it turns out.
Well, thanks, Dr. Bilstrom. You are wonderful. Okay, this is my short summary, and I'm going to go eat some butter. So I'm going to have butter, vitamin D, and after I finish the rest of the cheese, no more cheese and gluten. But thank you for being a host of knowledge and such a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much. So nice to have been here.
Thanks for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.